Welcome back to the Jacksonville Buzz. I'm Steve Strum. This morning we have Danielle Mincey White from Danielle Mincey White Incorporated, LLC. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I am good. Coming to us live from Mexico. How is
Yes.
life? I know it's been a minute since we have talked. Thanks so much for joining us today. We
You're
were talking a little
welcome.
bit offset about who you are, what makes you amazing, and what you're doing in some of your international travels. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Let's see here. Well, going back to the name of the company, Danielle Mincey White LLC, I decided back in 2018 that the various experiences that I've had as an entrepreneur really need to come under the umbrella of who I am because everything I do is coming from within. So that's really what Danielle Mincey White LLC is all about. It's about utilizing my strengths in sport as a coach and administrator, a director of academic programs, both in the US and abroad. It's about taking those experiences and then developing curriculum to meet needs, specifically, since the pandemic, social emotional learning needs, things that I came up with and experienced during my time in academia and before in corporate America, as well as in the nonprofit sector.
So you mentioned the new era that we're in with regards
hmm
to post-pandemic, right? Because we're kind of
Yes.
dwindling down, but very
hmm
similar to what happened in 2001. Obviously,
Yes.
September 12th of 2001, the
Whew.
world changed. Um,
Mm.
Coming out of the pandemic, which of course is not a new thing, it happened 100 years ago, but in the modern era,
Right.
this is the first experience people had with some sort of a global viral outbreak. And that has
hmm
changed the course of the way we do business. It's changed the course
hmm
of the way we humanly interact. You spoke about how you're
Yes.
developing content and programs to help people understand in this new
hmm
era, how do we deal with those things, but yet still function as a society, both academically and then socially within our relationships. What are some of the programs and some of the things you have done to try to adjust to this new environment, not just for your business model, but for the clients
hmm
and students that you serve?
Well, one of the key things that I did was, and you talk about synchronicity and experiences leading us to our now. Back in 2017, I returned to the US from Dubai after almost 3 years, where I was director of a master's of sports management program. And in that return, I realized that international experience leads to a lot of questions and the term of being overqualified. Okay. So I'm a very solution oriented person. And so at the time, I began substitute teaching back in my hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio. And because I was substitute teaching, I wanted to make sure that I was not only, carrying out the lesson plan, but I wanted to leave the students with something that would stick with them for the rest of their life, because that's what I do as a life coach. And so I developed a mindfulness project for sixth, seventh, and eighth graders who were in a math remediation program. Now, how does that relate to post pandemic? Well, I taught those students mindful techniques every day for approximately 4 weeks, a different technique each week. What that led to was the development of emotional physical therapy, SEL, standing for social emotional learning curriculum, that teachers could use both in the classroom face to face as well as during distance, is what we saw many of our schools go to. I mean, I'm pretty sure the whole world went to distance learning. So what that did was is that opened up the opportunities for schools to now give their students not just academics, but the actually soft skills, the understanding of how their emotions play into their learning. And the student response to this was, going back to the initial project, the student response was, I needed that. And the benefit of it was, Steve, was that when students responded, because I had them to actually journal, when students responded that they were going home and teaching this, teaching the techniques that they were learning to their younger siblings, to their parents, Then they said that everything started to calm down. One of the students said it started to calm down. Now, I utilized this as well when I moved to China in 2019, where I was hired as a Western culture expert. They love the way I talk. Okay. So,
Sure.
and when the pandemic hit, I was on a small island in Indonesia, Gili Air, on vacation from my role in China. And so, because I had no lesson plans, I was a cultural expert. We then went to me providing those students, over 3,000 Chinese high school students, with mindfulness techniques. So post-pandemic, we have like a whole generation, at least those students who have come through the program. Those students have been able to manage their emotions with all of the chaos and confusion that they're witnessing in the world.
That is amazing. And there is probably so much stuff out there that you can share with our audience as well as your client and student base on how to connect that virtual distance learning, but not yet forget the emotional side, so that as we go into the next generation of workforce, that we have a competent workforce that's not just able to academically do the job, but then figure out how to socially interact, whether it's in person or like we are right now, several hours by and thousands of miles away. If people want to find out more about you, your programs, your curriculum, or how their educational workforce can participate, what's the best way to connect with you?
The best way to connect with me, Steve, is through my website, which is my name, DanielleMinceyWhite.com, or they can contact me on LinkedIn. And my LinkedIn profile is actually just Dr. Dr. Dam, D-A-M, and those initials stand for my whole name, Danielle Ardella Mincey, and then White. So that's the best way to connect with me. And I want to promote a platform that the U.S. definitely has not come on board with most of the rest of the world, but it is awesome for keeping in connection, and that's at WhatsApp. Businesses, international businesses, we thrive on WhatsApp. And because I'm in Mexico, but I am a Florida resident, and my business is based out of Jacksonville, Florida.
Well, why don't you come back to Jacksonville? There's a studio here, and I, would love to have you in person to hear some of the success. And in the meantime, I really very much wish you well in everything that you're accomplishing, and thank you for helping our students and our workforce re-engage into what this new normal is.
Thank you, Steve. It's been a pleasure.
Yes,
I really believe that it is important that we put the emphasis back on the individual being in connection with his or her energy and how their emotions play out in their daily interactions. That is so vitally important.
I think that's huge, because especially in the world. So let's have another episode where we talk about how that energy of connection is in this new digital era.
I look forward to that. I'd be more than welcome.
Okay? Thank you for joining us this morning.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, ma'am. Guys, thanks so much for joining us on the Jacksonville Buzz. If you like us, share us, and remember, live with gratitude.